All right, here we are, Pillow Talk Unplugged, our first episode. This is super exciting. For those that don't know, I'm Bridgetta.
And I'm Edgar.
And I am stoked to be doing this. I mean, it's so fun because we started this show idea because of all the crazy, silly stories of dating that I was going through. And I'm like, no, you got to hear this. Is this normal? And then some things that you were sharing. And we were both just like, hey, let's do a show about this. It's fun. And no one really talks about some of like the nitty gritty dating, scenarios that can happen. So yeah.
The stories need to be told. There's just so many amazing stories that you've been through your life, things that I've been through, all the ups and downs of relationships over the couple of decades that we've been alive.
Yes, yeah. And dating is so different now too. It's like, so kind of like to rewind for those that don't know us, I have a 4.5-year-old little boy, single mom here, went through a big breakup, and it was a lot, and then moved across states, and it's been a lot to go through. And so kind of getting back at the dating game in your 40s is like, what the hell, like what do I even do, where do I even begin, how do I do this? It's just been very interesting. And then I know you've had, I'll let you go into
I've had multiple lives as well, like you have, was in New York, was married, had a kid, moved down to Florida, ended up getting divorced. I have a beautiful 5.5-year-old daughter. Actually, our kids are friends, and that's how we met originally.
Yes.
And after I got divorced, jumped right back into the dating pool, and it was different. Even I was married for 5 years, so before that, I was dating in, I wouldn't say like a completely different era, but even in those 5 years, I feel like things have changed, or maybe also I've changed as a person,
right?
And I look for different things, or the experiences that I've been through make me look at dating relationships in a different way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's like I'm sitting here writing my book now on all these crazy stories throughout my life, and it's what I find interesting is back then, as I look at relationships totally differently, because before I realized I just wanted the idea of having a child, the idea of getting married and having like, the white picket fence and, what you chose or, say it should be, and have this whole imagination and hopeless romantic. And I'm like, yes, that's what I'm going to do. And I feel like then I would force relationships to happen. Like I'd be like, it's this person and I'm going to make it happen. No matter all the little red flags that come up, whatever it is, I'm going to make this work and force it. And now it's a totally different perspective where I have my child, I'm good, and I don't need to force anything. In fact, if anything, I'm like, nope, reject, and nope, and nope, So it's been like a whole different way to look at things, but also see how I've matured in that sense and like where I've been and come from. So yeah.
That's a great point about red flags. I feel like either because we have particular goals, like having a child, or we're just sort of young and foolish, we tend to ignore them.
Yes.
When we're younger, in early relationships, and then when you look back, you totally see them.
Yeah.
And like, why did I ignore this very, very obvious red flag that should have told me this is not the right person for me, and just completely steamrolled through that into a relationship, sometimes even a long-term relationship that in retrospect would have easily been identifiable as like, this is doomed for failure. We should do not go down this path. Do not pass go. So those red flags, I think we're just more aware of it now.
Totally.
Like in any part of life, but certainly relationships, having that experience and now being more aware of that. But I'm curious, do you think that in a way makes us so picky at this point that like, does that prevent us from maybe pursuing relationships that are not perfect, but could be something great?
It's a great question because so I'm sitting here and I got on the app the other day, which I'm a little overwhelmed, and I'm like, okay, I actually took myself off one app in 2 hours. I was like, I can't do this. I'm done. No. Delete. Refund, please. And I got my refund back. And then I went on, my friend was like, no, go back on this one. So I went on Match, and there's like so
old
many.
School. Match.com.
I was like, I'm going to do it fine. And I went through them. This is in the past like 24 hours. I went through them all. I'm like, and every single one, no. And there's like hundreds that are on there, right? And all these people have written all these messages, and there's 2 that I picked out of all of them. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? I am so picky. And then I've kind of been going through this in the past few days as well, is like, am I too picky? Do I need to, come back on those things that are on my list, And then I'm like, no, a lot of it is attraction, obviously. And then 2, it's like, for the things that I want, no, it's out there. I know it's out there. And I've had it. And I know there's people in my mind that I know are that. Like, I've had that experience, and it's like, okay, this is the bar and this is what I want, or better. So I know it's out there, I guess. So I'm like, okay, I can find that. I don't think it's here, but it's hard. It's like the happy medium, So also part of me is like, I think I'm going to get off the app again. I'm going to shut it down because it's such a mind thing.
Yeah, the apps are interesting. I don't think I've ever really met anybody that I really liked through the apps. They're nice because it does give you
something to do.
Something to do. Even if you're just sitting there swiping, oh, there's a pretty girl,
Yeah.
But and you can go on dates and meet people and have fun. But I don't know. All of my quality relationships have always been people that I've met in person and just kind of hit it off because at that point you immediately kind of know a little bit of the vibe that you have.
Yeah.
And sometimes you feel that attraction kind of right away, and then it tends to progress from there. Maybe it doesn't evolve into something super serious, but you're not wasting time. But I find that in the dating apps make it really difficult to judge someone's personality. Because people write these, bios.
Yep.
And I don't even know how to write a bio that describes my personality. Right? I mean, it's like, okay, here's my hobbies, here's what I do, here's a little bit of humor.
Right.
But that's so insufficient to really portray a person. And then you're having to take the time to talk to them and then go out on a date, and you could be kind of far in and then realize like, this person I don't really want to deal with at all. So
just a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
And that's another part that I think I'm having. It's like, I'm so busy and I don't have enough time to waste. I don't want to waste my time, and it's also been, and I look back to all those times that I used to go out, and when I know, like I would meet someone and I would just know by looking at them, like, that I have to know that person for whatever reason. And usually it would wind up in like my 5-year-long relationships or whatever. And it's happened so many times. Like it would just like this knowing. And I haven't had that in so long. And it's like, okay, well, where was that? Okay, universe, like what's happening here? What is the lesson and why? And it's just, going on these apps. Also too, it's like part of what I get really annoyed about is, and I changed my name on this one, but it's like when I had my name, they go and they just Google it. And so for me, I have the hardest time doing it because if you Google my name, you're going to find, all of my Hollywood life on there and all of my modeling photos and probably some of the, TV shows like 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐼cation and Lingerie-able and whatever else where I'm naked or half, topless or whatever from these shows. And they have this idea in their head like, oh, Hollywood party girl. So she's going to be she's going to be fun. She's going to be easy, fun, no brain, like, none of that. And so they have this idea in their head of who they think that I am. And then when they get to know me, they're like, oh, you're like way more serious than that. Like, wait a second. You actually have a brain? Oh, that's not what I was into. And then I just wasted all this time. So and then also too, for me, it's like, I just want you to get to know me for who I am versus who you think that I am. So it's so frustrating. And even with the photos, it's like, well, my photos are all professional. They just are. That's just the way that I am. So when I'm putting them up here, I'm like, this is so ridiculous. And I look at all these other profiles of men where partly part of me wants to go on and be like, let me help you with your profile. This is what I do for a living, marketing and PR, right? Let me help you with that. Cause this is like a no. What is this half face thing? Or guys with their like shirts off right away, that's your photo? Like, no, ew, like why? And then there was a photo, I think, of this guy that had literally, it was just his legs. I'm like, those are damn good legs, but to put them on your profile like that, okay,
that's
ego,
a bit weird.
Like that's just, what is that? And then just like automatic, ew, ego, or oh, you're just this sex maniac, or oh, I have all these again things that I think of when I see it, and then these profiles of like men not dressed right, or like here I am at party scene, or there's a chick around you and you block her out, or like you can tell it's edited over. It's like, dude, I know there's a chick in it. Can't you just like get your shit together to have a good photo? And like, so part of me is like the presence and presentation of who you are, like I judge that on these profiles, which I know I shouldn't, but I do because what I do for a living. And then I look at that and I'm like, well, if you can't present yourself here, then how do you present yourself in real life? So my brain just goes like way beyond the photo and their profile and whatever. And I will read the bios that they put, because some guys are just like, yeah, here to have fun, you know, or like, you know, I just drink all day, or I'm fishing and drinking or whatever. I'm like, yeah, skip, bye. You know, there's no depth here. And so, and I'll look at the ones that show more depth, because then I'm like, okay, they took the time to actually, you know, explain more about them. Like okay, then that means there might be a little bit more to them than basic conversation or, you know, just sex or whatever. So I analyze all of it.
So I can see why that's a challenge for you, right? Because I think most guys just swipe. I mean,
yeah,
it's like looks first. Partly is because a lot of women on the dating apps don't really put a profile either. They just kind of go off their looks, kind of knowing that most guys are not going to read the details of the profile anyway. And so for us, quite frankly, it's much less time consuming.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done that and I've seen my friends just literally like pull up the app, go boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
I mean, I do look at the pictures because it's kind of pointless if it's someone I'm not going to be. I do if I get a match. And that's also just the statistics, right? Because it's been shown that women and men on dating apps get a vastly different number of matches just because that's how the world works, right? So women get a lot of matches, men don't as much. And of course, you know, depending on where you are as a guy in terms of look, success, and whatever, you can be very, very low. But even, you know, as an attractive guy that has good pictures, let's say, you're still going to get way less matches than a woman like yourself, for example. And because of that, it's sort of a numbers game for us. We're just kind of going through, and then when you get a match, then you look and you see, okay, this girl looks crazy based on what she wrote. Boom, not talking to her. Or like, okay, there is something there.
Yeah.
Might be interesting. But, you know, you mentioned about people Googling you and then the celebrity thing. I actually matched with a girl, and in her profile, it said, you know, she's attractive. Her pictures were pretty nice, like nothing too over-sexualized.
Right.
And then in her profile, it said, yes, I'm that girl. And I'm thinking like, okay, what? I need to know about this.
Like, who is this?
I didn't ask her, obviously, but I looked her up. And she's actually a porn star. And I'm like, okay, well, let's see what kind of, and it was
full on,
like anything you can imagine.
Oh, jeez.
And so I actually asked her, I was like, are you looking for relationships or a co-star in one of your videos? So
that's funny.
Yeah, but we didn't go on a date.
No,
you
didn't go.
But I was very curious, like what I mean.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe that is a challenge for her. Obviously, like if she is looking for a relationship, people can look her up.
It is.
And there's obviously a whole level of magnitude different than with you, but being a celebrity is a challenge.
And
I'm lucky I'm not famous. So I don't have that issue.
But it's hard too, because also, you know, for those that don't know, but most of you do, you know, I was the Extenze girl for years. And for those that don't know what Extenze is, it's the male enhancement pill that was on every single channel all day, all night long for like 7 years. And so I mean, there was a point where I would walk into a restaurant and people were like, oh, that's that girl. Oh, that's her right there. And you hear all the whispers and people turn around and it's like, it was weird from the commercial. You know, it's like a stupid commercial. And I remember too, when I auditioned for that the producer was like, oh, you're going to be so known from this. I'm like, really? Yeah, right. No one's going to know. No one's going to see it, whatever. Literally within like 2 weeks after we did it and it was edited, boom, it was like everywhere. And you know, I still get fan mail from people from this. And I remember how ridiculous it was, because even then I'm not even kidding, it's like people thought I was Dear Abby. And they would write me and ask me questions about their sex life, men and women. And then men would, you know, send their photos. I am not kidding how many photos that I've seen. So many photos. Like, do you think, and you know, they'd ask me like, do you think this is big enough or good enough? Like, or my girlfriend, she's upset because of this story. And some were serious and some were just perverted, whatever. But there were many that were just perverted. but some were serious. And they literally asked me sex advice. And I almost started a column back then because I'm like, this is like Dear Abby, you know? And it was like so ridiculous and over the top. And I remember when I first got these, I would send them to the producer. I'd literally email or text him the photos like, yeah. And he'd be like, what the hell, Bridgetta? I'm like, yeah, this is what's happening to me right now. This is crazy. But at that same point, men became intimidated. And so it was, and luckily I was with somebody at that, that time, and he would just laugh like, this is hilarious. But anyone else would become completely intimidated. Like, oh gosh, you're that girl. Oh, I don't know if I'm, and I would literally have some men write me that. Or it was men that were like, they had in their head, I was just a sex object,
Or they thought that you were actually administering the medication and watching the effects and measuring everybody. Like they thought that you were the actual medical professional.
Exactly. And I'm like, I've never used it before in my life. Did I try the drink? Yes, there was an energy drink. I did try it. Yes, it makes you horny, but it makes you burp like crazy. It was so weird. Interesting. Yes. And it was like the most horrific like burps. Like they were like, I don't know what was in it.
That's actually pretty fascinating because like female sort of sexual arousal thing is kind of a big thing. And there's been some attempts at pills and things like that. But I had no idea that Extenze made an energy drink that makes you horny. And you're saying it actually worked.
It actually worked. That's crazy. I mean, I only had them because we were at events and I'm like, I might as well just try it. It's like a soda basically. And it had like, I think taurine, which can do that, and a few other things. I don't remember what they were. But yeah, it made you have these crazy burps though that like they were stinky. Like they were so gross. Men or women, and it would be like, whoa, oh my God, do not drink that. No, you cannot have this near me. And no, I'm not drinking this near you. So
you were just standing at the event burping out uncontrollably and then watching every guy pass by and fantasizing about them because you were so horny.
I mean, I'm not to that extent, but it definitely, would turn you on in a sense. Like it was like, wow, okay, this is fun. But have I ever used Extenze or been with a partner who's used it? No, I have not. So I can't speak to that. I can tell you about all the people that have emailed me or letters, so crazy. And it still happens. I still get messaged to this day about it.
Well, the good news for anybody that wanted to ask Bridgetta a question, now we have this podcast and you can do it.
Oh, yes.
Call in, write, subscribe.
Oh, yes.
Add us on socials. And, if you're lucky.
That was a great plug-in, by the way.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Yeah,
we'll answer your questions.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been, so it's hard. It's hard to, date in that sense. And I also got on, what's that app? I can't even think of it. It's like celebrities only. And I have an iPhone just for that app. I can't think of it, what the name of it is right now. And it's a platform that you had to go through loops to like get on. Right. And it's actually this is so funny. So when I went to get on it, and I got on within 2 days, I had a few like celebrity friends like, sponsor me to get on it. And then I wrote a friend of mine and he's like, do you know who that is, Bridgetta, who invented it? And it's a guy that I was with before in the past. And I'm like, shut up, no way. And he's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm not asking him, you ask him. So he did. And that's why I got on like the next day on it. So it was pretty funny. But
how's the quality of men on that?
I met some really awesome people. I will say that's the app where I'm on and I'm like, every person is so hot. Oh my God. Yes to all of them. And they all have a job, and they all have a brain and they're all creatives and they all are into holistics or health or wellness or things that I'm like looking for. And on the other app, it's like, oh God, ew. Like, no. There's like 2 people out of like all of Florida that I like literally find attractive who are on that app. Like, it's like, are you kidding me? And then I go through this in my mind. Sorry, guys, I'm not trying to offend anyone out there either, but it's like, I'm so used to being in LA or San Diego where everyone's beautiful, and and that's really hard to say. That's really messed up. I feel like so mean saying it, but also like inside and out, there's depth as well. So yes, attraction's the first part. And I'm like, oh my God, yes to all of them. And on that celebrity app, yes to all of them. But that what I find on there is everyone's so busy. We're so busy. So like, I haven't been on the app in like, I don't know, 2 months. And I've gotten clients off the app, which is even funnier. So like, that's how it's worked for me is like clients. And that's kind of all it's gone.
Justifies your time right there, right?
Exactly.
So you might have not found a guy yet on there, but
yeah,
if it generates income, that's not a bad thing. But that makes sense, right? Because I think that's one of the challenges that people have with dating apps is that it's really not curated.
Yeah.
These algorithms are supposed to try to find people that you're more likely to match with.
No.
And I don't know if it works really well. I don't know if it's an algorithmic problem or if it's just the fact that there's so many people and there's just some of us are a little bit more picky than others, and we're not gonna just go for everything. But the curation part is interesting. So that kind of leads me into another question that I was thinking about. Have you ever tried a matchmaking service?
It's funny. I've been approached so many times with that. There's a really good matchmaking company out of California who's actually asked me several times. And every time they would ask me and I would go through it like, oh yeah, okay, maybe I'll do it. And then I would meet someone right away. So I'm like, okay, sorry, whatever. And I thought about like reaching out to them again because there is a certain level that I want that I'm looking for. And because of what I do in work as well, like whoever I'm with has to be okay being in the public eye. They have to be okay being around, other celebrities or royals or whoever I'm with, and know how to like present themselves in a situation, or at an event, or if I'm like mingling around the room, like you have to hold yourself together. Like I'll be back, but I need to work the room and come back. So like have that confidence as well. And it's not, and someone who works maybe at a local office is not going to understand that or get that. So that's also like things that I think of in my head. And I look at that when I'm reading people's profiles, like what do they do for a living? Do they speak? Do they travel around? Like those are things that how are they dressed? Are they someone I could like be okay with in public? And so I look at all of that. So for those out there that are doing your profiles, think thoroughly, don't lie, but like think thoroughly, like how you're presenting yourself to other people as well. So I don't know. Of course, most people that are on the apps for men are just like, I don't know. Are they really on there to find someone, or are they really on there just to have a fun night?
I think it depends, really. It's a whole spectrum, right? There's definitely people looking for relationships that are long-term and other people that are literally, like you said, down for a good time or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I think as long as you're kind of clear about that, it's good. It seems to me like most women are going to not swipe on somebody that is saying I'm here for a good time.
No.
So then I think that does lead a lot of guys to try to make them seem more relationship material than they really want to be. Mm-hmm. But I think that's okay too, because once you get into a situation and you're dating, as long as you're kind of clear at that point, I think it's fine. Yeah. But like for me, when I was in the apps, I definitely tried to make a good impression, like boyfriend material, right? So good pictures, nicely dressed, doing fun activities. Mm-hmm. So the one thing that I did have a shirtless picture, but the way I did it, and you can tell me if this works or not, but it was like me at the beach on a surfboard.
Okay. So you were showing that you were an active
exactly.
person.
So I was trying, but the intent of that picture was to show me shirtless, because I'm like, hey, I'm in good shape. I want to show it off, but I don't want to just have a random shirtless picture, because that's kind of a little
so lame.
Yeah, it's lame. So I thought about that as like, how can I incorporate that without it looking lame?
Strategic.
I felt like I did a pretty good job with that.
Very strategic. And it's funny because there was someone I noticed when I was going through the photos, there's like skiing. I'm like, oh good, he skis because I'm into skiing. And then like, someone else was like boating. I'm like, oh cool, I love boating. And then someone had their shirt off like at the beach thing, but it was like, it wasn't, it was very, I was like, oh damn. Because at first I was like, I don't know, I can't tell him these clothes if he's like in shape.
Right.
And then I got there and I was like, damn, I hope that's not an old photo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I scroll down, does he go to the gym? 4 to 5 times a week. Okay, all right, maybe. Mm-hmm. So yes, if it's tastefully done and kind of snuck in there like that, absolutely. And I've noticed too, like I noticed that guy chose different scenes and I'm like, that's smart. So you're showing you're active. Like that intrigued me. I was like, okay, that'll pull in the right ones.
So there's good advice, right? This is good advice for guys. If you're in the apps, here's some pretty easy things you can do. Multiple scenes, different activities, tasteful, fit looking pictures.
Mix it in.
Sneak it in somewhere in a very nice way. And then, you'll get a lot more attention.
And one of the things that's also like a biggest peeve, I was talking to you recently, and this is, so presentation's everything, right? So when I meet someone when I'm out or even on the apps or wherever, but even like out, like I notice this. If someone, now I get it. If you come from the gym, like whatever, but I will look, this sounds so bad, but I will look at clothes. I just do. It's just, I mean, I'm a clothes person. I love that world and love fashion. However, how I look at it is a little bit different. So if I see someone fashionably dressed, I'm already thinking they put thought into their body, like themselves, how they dress. They probably put thought into their body, what goes into their body, how they work out, their mindset. Like I'm already thinking like they take care of themselves. And if they take care of themselves in that way, then they probably would take care of me or others or whoever's around them. That's how I look at it. So if someone comes in like sloppily dressed, then I'm like, oh, they're just going to be sloppy. Their whole life's sloppy. Their finances are probably sloppy. Their health is probably sloppy. Ew, they probably have diseases. Ew, they're, they're whatever. My mind goes to like that. And then, and it's funny because, I did have a scenario not long ago where there was someone that, I shouldn't go too into this, but I'm going to.
That's why we're here.
This is why we're here. And it just wasn't totally not my type at all, and I have not been with anyone in like quite some time. I've been so picky, like, no, I'm not wasting my energy on anyone. And then I was like, oh, whatever. And totally not my type, totally dressed sloppy. I knew it. And here's my theory right here. And I was like, oh, probably going to be a totally sloppy kisser too. And was. And everything about it was sloppy. And it was just like, oh God, that was like what am I doing? Yeah. And so my theory, it helps support my theory. And so I go back to, must be dressed nice, must take care of themselves, must be in the gym, because of all of these things. If you're taking care of yourself on the outside of appearance, then you probably are doing within, and then you are probably doing that with everything in your life, and your life is probably well put together, I would hope. Like that's where my brain goes on how I look at it. I don't know about other women, but that's how I think. And again, I analyze everything.
I mean, it makes sense, right? I think people that apply a certain level of standard to themselves kind of apply it to everything, right? So it is about picking the right clothes, or something more fashionable, being not wearing baggy, dirty clothes, that kind of stuff.
Oh God,
going to the gym, right? I mean, and also I think it does apply to, what I see happen is a lot of guys that are not confident in, say, approaching women, or they feel like, oh, I can't get the girl that I want. Part of it is they don't have the confidence because they haven't built themselves up to be confident. Mm-hmm. And there's people there that say, oh, you kind of flip a switch and you just act confident and everything's going to go great. I don't really believe that. I think you generate natural confidence by believing in yourself, that you're the best person you can be.
Right.
So, whether that means success in your professional life, a certain level of success there, the way you dress, the way that you look in terms of fitness, when you put all those components together, that confidence comes naturally. Mm-hmm. And, it's like chicken and the egg kind of question, but I really haven't met a lot of guys that have those components and are not confident. Mm-hmm. Like a well-dressed guy that goes to the gym, that has professional success, they're just not the type of people that are like, oh, I don't know how to approach a woman.
Yeah, no.
Right. And it could be also that obviously some personality traits lead to those successes and then to the confidence. But, my advice on that topic is, if you're a guy and you feel like you have a lack of confidence, look at yourself first.
Yeah.
Don't try to kind of change your mentality about the dating or the relationships part. Change yourself to be the best person you can be. True. And you'd be surprised by how naturally confident you become from that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's actually a really good point. And then I remember when I was just getting back into like the dating realm, and I came from, obviously my son was young, whatever. And I'm like, I'm just going to wear sweats every day. And I was working with a coach to get myself out of like the space. And my coach was like, okay, I want you to pretend that there's just this hot person you're going to go and meet. And so we're going to go on this exercise, and you're going to start dressing up for yourself for 1 week challenge. And I was like, oh God, I don't want to do that. But I did it. And that's how I got myself out of the funk. I literally was like, she's like, you have a huge closet full of clothes and you're not using them. Still not using them. But, you know, it's like, go in there and start dressing up. Start feeling like getting into that mode again. And when I did, it actually helped. So for those out there that might be like, oh, I'm in a slump, or, oh, I don't know how to do that, or who's that, you know, or just in like a space, try and do that. Try and like get dressed up just for you, just for fun, and see how it feels. How does it make you feel when you do that? You know, how do you walk? Do you walk different? Do you talk different? Do you present yourself differently? Like, do you feel more confident when you dress up? Like, what is that like? And for me, all of that changed. Like, it shifted into, you know, I was getting back to myself. Like, oh yeah, I'm definitely, you know, when I wear the heels, like, oh yeah, you know, the strut comes out and all. Like, it's like, yes. And it did work, and it did shift back into, it was a whole mindset thing. And so for those out there that might be in that same space, maybe try that suggestion. But I'm curious too, like, I mean, I guess most women do dress well, but do you have any of those, like when you see some girl who's all like not dressed appropriately, or, you know, does your brain go to any of those things that I do, or just men and women are totally different and we think? No,
I think there's definitely some correlations there. I mean, one of the things is, you said like dressed appropriately. That's more for the occasion, right? So in that sense, I mean, yeah, sometimes you might see, you know, a girl at a kind of a nice restaurant, and she's just is wearing sweats, and that then you're kind of like, oh, it's weird. Like, why are you know, you're not dressed for the occasion. I do find that sometimes women that are casually dressed can still project a very beautiful appearance. And what I mean by that is, like, you'll see a woman at Starbucks in sweatpants, but then you can notice, like, oh, you know, she's got her makeup done, her hair looks nice, not all disheveled and whatnot. And so it's totally fine to, in my mind, to be casual when it's appropriate.
Right.
And I don't think a guy is necessarily going to look at you and say, oh, well, you're not wearing heels and a you know, and a dress to go get your Starbucks coffee. But realize that, you know, that might be a place where you might meet someone. So even if you're looking pretty casual, still try to kind of look nice, so that, you know, a guy will. Don't roll out of bed
with toothpaste on your face. I'm just kidding.
I think that's happened to all of us at some point.
Like, it's just a little like, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah.
I mean, in general, I would say that guys do look less at clothes than women, right? Because, I mean, at least for me, it's like heels, boom, that's already ups the level easily. Dresses, you know, all that kind of stuff. Anything that accentuates the femininity of a woman, to me, is attractive. You know, so sweatpants, cool. Like, I think a woman can still be beautiful in it.
Go aloe. Just kidding.
Oh, yeah. That's a nice plug. Hope they're sponsoring us.
I know.
But yeah, no, I do think it's always important to put your best foot forward, no matter what the occasion really is, because what you said is perfect. Like, if you look good, you feel good, and then you put out that positive energy.
Yeah.
And I think there's really something to that, where you have that feeling about yourself, knowing that you're a valuable person, you know, that you're an attractive person. And people do respond to that. And sometimes you wonder, like, how, you know, why one person always has a certain charm and talks to everyone and another person doesn't. And I think a lot of that comes with how they feel about themselves.
Well, it's funny because I always go for the quiet ones. Like, I know, it's so funny. Like, I'll be like, I remember back in the day, I'm like, you know, I would scan the bar or whoever, and I'd be like, that one over there who's by himself, like, confidence by himself, but I'd be like, I want to know what that guy's thinking. And like, that's who I would kind of be like, that's who I'm going to talk to, even in the room, like wherever I'm at in a party, I'm like, oh, that guy over there. Like, yeah.
And to your point though, I think sometimes the loudest guys in the room are the least confident. And I know several people like that, where they overcompensate. And I know that they're not confident because, you know, private conversations we've had or whatever, but when they're in public, they're trying to be the biggest guy in the room, the loudest guy in the room, to make it seem like they are. And it's, I mean, if it's obvious to me as a guy, I think it's probably obvious to most women who are much more intuitive than men.
Yeah.
And so that just doesn't work. And oftentimes the quieter ones are the ones, like you said, if you're by yourself at a bar, you know, usually it's because you don't feel uncomfortable there being by yourself.
Yep.
that's a good level of confidence. Of course, if you're there for 8 hours in sweatpants drinking, that's a different story. I don't think you're talking to those guys.
Not talking to those guys. No, not at all. But
yeah, absolutely. That quiet, but yet I still think that those quiet guys that are confident, they still project it in some way.
They do.
It's hard to describe it unless we have some sort of energy, camera or a meter, but there's got to be something that you see or you feel when you see them that does set them apart.
Yeah. Can't figure it out, but yes, like it's automatically like, oh, that one looks interesting. Let's check it out. Or everywhere, all the time, whether it's like an event or whatever, it's like I'm scanning the room and I'm literally, you're right, like kind of reading the energies, and I'm like, I'm going to go say hi to that one.
Yeah.
Or what, or bump into naturally, calculate how I'm going to do this.
On the slide past on the way to the bathroom.
Oh yes. Oops, I dropped it.
Yeah.
Yes, I've definitely done that before. Oh my God. I remember like being at the gym back in the day, and there was like this gorgeous guy, and and of course I know how to work out, like, and I would be like, I don't know how to use this. Can you show me how? Done some absolutely ridiculous things, but actually turned into a relationship. That was pretty funny. Yeah. The things we do.
Great question about, you mentioned gym. What do you think is appropriate gym etiquette? Because I've seen so much controversy about this.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Because there's the opinions are like all over the place. There's some people that say everybody's there to do their thing and you should never talk to a girl at the gym, period. Another spectrum of that is that basically like, look, if girls are there and they're wearing attractive things, they kind of like are looking for some attention. So the spectrum is so large.
Yeah.
And I've always been curious from the female perspective, what's appropriate, what's not. What do you think?
It depends, because I've been through this. So I used to work out in, I don't go to the gym. I mean, I go to TRX now, so it's different. But when I used to go to the gym, I was always LA Fitness was like my thing. Name drop. Anyway. But,
that's where I go.
Hey, there you go. But I remember, and I like dressing up in the gym. I mean, I know people that wear makeup in the gym, I'm like, why? Ew, that's so, like, what are you doing?
It's running down.
So gross and weird. Like, I do not get that at all. But I do like, all of my gear that I wear to work out, I'm just into fashion. So I'm always going to be fashionable no matter where I go. So like, but there are times, it depends on the mood. There have been times where I'm like, do not talk to me. I'm here to work out. Like, I get annoyed and disgusted. Like, there's been like, ew, like, can you say I'm running here? Like, get a grip. So if I'm on the treadmill, that's an absolute no. If I'm like working out, like heavily breathing, it's a no.
Right.
If I am walking around, maybe deciding on a machine, or you see me in my mind where I've got my headphones on and I'm like checking on a machine and then checking back or looking at my watch, I'm busy, I'm on a time crunch, do not approach me. But if I'm like kind of like hanging out, maybe waiting for this machine to be done, maybe like feel the vibe into it. Like just wait and feel the vibe, like watch, because I might be okay with it, or you could be like, hi, and if a simple hi, like if I respond or if a girl responds and it's like, okay, maybe, or she might be like, rolling her eyes, then that's a no, or if she doesn't respond, that's a no, because she ignored you on purpose. She saw you, she heard you, she doesn't want to respond. And I've done that, like blatantly. Someone will, that sounds so rude, but someone will come up and be like, hey, and I literally ignore it, pretending I'm on my headphones, like, I do not want to talk. I don't want to respond. Like, I'm in my mode of, maybe I'm there to, work out and get rid of something off my mind, or I'm in a bad mood, or I have a time crunch, whatever it is. I don't want to be bothered absolutely whatsoever. I get so like annoyed, and if you try and approach me, I'm like, ew, like gross, skeezy, like ugh, so just read the room in a sense, like watch how she's responding.
Definitely do not talk to someone when they're in the middle of a workout.
No, and people have done that before, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, can't you see I'm working? Like, get away from me. Yeah. Like, how about if I came up to you and you're like about to lift a 400 pound, like, not that I'm lifting that, but you're like, what?
That's the thing. It's like that etiquette also applies to guys, right? Like if you're in the middle of a set and some dude comes and starts a conversation, you're gonna be like, leave me alone. Right. Like, can you just wait? But yeah, the challenge too is these days everybody at the gym has headphones, right? And so it's kind of like, I find it kind of awkward to try to talk to someone, because unless it's literally tapping on the shoulder and being like, are you done with this machine? Because I need to know. Right. So I don't have a problem talking to you because I have a question. But in terms of, approaching someone, to start a conversation.
Yeah.
You don't know if they're, like you said, in the zone, they're vibing out to their music. Even if they're not necessarily in the middle of a workout, they may be just like in that mind space.
Right.
And I've been in the same situation too. Like for me, going to the gym is one of the biggest de-stressors that I have. If I'm angry about something, that makes me feel so much better. I'll go in there, you know, bust out an hour or two, and I feel so much better. But during that time, I may be like, I don't really want to talk to anybody either. So that makes sense.
I feel like too, if you're in the gym and you see a girl the first time, you could say hi.
Yeah.
But do not approach her the first time. Like, wait till you see her again. You know what time she's there. She's probably going to be there around the same time next time. Right. So, you know, the next time you see her there on that day, that time, then you can be like, hi, build it up. You know, kind of like see where, if she's like, and ignores you the next time, it's a no. It's a no, guys.
Now, if she asks you for help using a machine,
I mean, that's a different story.
I think that
I've definitely
in
done
that case, you have an opportunity.
Like, you know, and I've done that innocently before where I legitimately needed to know, but usually I'm going to wait and find the guy that I find attractive to be like, show me how to do this, you know? Like, it's a little ridiculous.
That's usually a good sign. That's definitely an invitation to at least talk, and then you can feel out the vibe.
Absolutely.
I feel like most girls are not going to ask random guys to use the machine, because there's people at the gym that work there or whatever, or they can ask another girl, or you know. So usually there's at least something like where they're open to the conversation if they're starting it, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so going back to like, you know, let's say dating apps and you're like scrolling on them. What are things besides like, okay, obviously a good photo for them. What else does a guy or would you look for?
Yeah, so I mean, like I was saying, most of the time the photo is the first part because of the statistics of matching.
Listen, ladies, should it be a bikini? I'm just kidding.
You know, I mean, look, we all want to look for partners that we're attracted to.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, if there's a girl that has no pictures of her in something at least like feminine, it doesn't have to be a bikini, although this is South Florida.
Right.
I don't think I've seen a single female profile on an app that didn't have a bikini picture.
I don't have one on there.
Oh, there you go. Well, I haven't seen yours, so there you go.
Yeah.
But
I also don't want, like, I think my vibe, I mean, my photos kind of speak for themselves, but I also feel like I don't want that automatic, like, sex. Like, I'm not trying to, like, do that.
Right.
So maybe I'm kind of like,
yeah, but I would say, I mean, you have professional pictures where I'm sure you're wearing a dress or something that's kind of form-fitting. That's fine, too.
Yeah.
It just gets a little weird because you do see sometimes pictures of, like, literally women in sweatpants or, you know, kind of.
So no sweatpants.
No, sweatpants are fine, but it can't be the only picture. Right.
Yeah.
So, because guys are going to look and say, okay, you know, yeah, this person looks like they're fit and, you know, I'm attracted to that. So, for sure, something that shows that is helpful. But, like I said, you know, once the match happens, I definitely read the profile. Mm-hmm. And one thing is that a surprising number of women have nothing in the profile. So maybe they're just kind of like, whatever, I don't think I need it. Mm-hmm. That's a little weird to me because also especially on the guy side, there's a lot of bots out there.
Oh, interesting.
And they basically, they don't, you know, they're not real people.
I've heard this from guys.
Yeah, they'll automatic like auto match with you, and then as soon as you start the conversation, it's usually pretty obvious.
Yeah,
but
weird. Why? Like, I wonder why there'd be a bot for this. Like, that's just so.
I can explain to you the whole scam.
Yeah, I want to know because I hear this over and over again from guys. I don't see bots on my end. Yeah, I have no idea.
So the way that it's actually called a pig butchering scam. And what it is they basically create a sort of relationship with you. And it's sometimes an Indian guy working in Thailand, like on a computer. Mm-hmm. And they will start a conversation and build up a relationship. And eventually they're going to tell you about this great investment that's allowing them to live this wonderful life.
Oh, wow.
And,
okay.
You know, I've never fallen for a scam, but I have had a conversation with somebody at one point that looked, and actually she had a profile and everything, but it became pretty obvious that because she was like, oh, I travel all the time and work from different places, and it was just getting a little bit weird. And then I figured out, oh, that's what it is. Kind of like, this doesn't make sense.
Weird, yeah.
And what they do is they actually will, after a certain time, tell you, I'm investing in this great crypto platform. and they don't ask you to invest right away. They keep saying, oh, today I got a check for $100,000 or whatever. And eventually they try to get the guys to invest. They send them their money. And then of course,
that is so
boom.
wild.
That's one of them. The other one's the traditional romance scam where they basically will tell you, oh, like I'm in love with you or whatever, but I need money to come from Ukraine or whatever the heck they're based out of. And so that's how they do it. And surprising number of people fall for that scam. But for me, one of the things how I avoid wasting time is I basically within a few lines of conversation, I ask them out on a date. And that avoids a couple of things. One is obviously if it's not a real person or if they live far away, whatever, where I'm never going to really meet them. I'm not looking for a pen pal, frankly. I'm looking for someone that I can spend time with in real life.
Right.
And it also avoids, some girls, for whatever reason, they're not really ready to date. Like they're on the apps, but they're not ready to, or they may just, maybe they match with you, but they're not super interested for whatever reason. That could happen. At the end of the day, I've had the most successful dates with girls that immediately respond like, hey, and it could be, it doesn't have to be like, oh, let me take you out to dinner. It could be like, hey, let's meet for a coffee or a drink, like something very casual.
Right.
So you get to meet them very quickly and just feel the vibe.
Yeah.
Because the other thing you also avoid is, for example, girls that have pictures from 10 years ago,
I was going to ask you that. How many women out there does this happen to? Or men rather, how many times has this happened to you? Because I'm hearing this over and over again that men are like, or they'll say it on their profile, please make sure your pictures are updated. I will know eventually, it's like, or catfishing, that's awesome.
I've never been catfished. I'm trying to think about, I never really had an experience where somebody looked dramatically different from their pictures.
I did.
And I don't know. I guess maybe it's just luck or whatever, or maybe just the kind of women that I matched with, they just put whatever it is that they, their looks. And at the end of the day, I think that it's more prevalent. I think guys maybe are just more likely to do that because, again, statistics, right? If you're a woman and you put some nice pictures, you don't have to put the picture from 10 years ago. You're still going to get enough matches to hopefully find someone to go on a date with. Whereas, a guy could be totally insecure and needs to put a picture of himself from 10 years ago before he had a beer belly.
There's so much of that. And then the men lie. The age lies. I'm like, dude, this
women
is
do
ridiculous.
lie about their age too. That is much more common. Yes. That's much more common.
You could just Google me and see it everywhere. So in fact, why would I lie?
My ex-wife lied about her age when we first met. And I found that out pretty quickly because within 5 days, we were traveling and I had both passports and I looked at it and I was like, wait, you're born in 85. I thought you said you just turned 30. And then she's like, oh no, I never said that. But yeah. So women do lie about
that's
that.
Funny.
Yeah. I'm less about pictures, I think, than about age. But everybody wants to act younger.
Because I'm looking at the men that I set in a limit, and I'm like, okay, 50, and then I'm like, you are not 50. There is you are not. You're 55, 60, ew, no, gross. And then there was a guy actually that lied and said he was younger. And he's like, well, I'm actually 44. I'm like, I would have liked you more if you said your actual age to begin with versus being 35. Why did you put that? No. It's so weird. I don't even know how it matched up either. I also find that the algorithms, even though I put a certain range, they just do what they want anyway. So,
right. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. But there's also, there is that idea, right? If you put a limit, and sometimes you might put a limit that's, there's one perfect guy who's a year older, right? So that's challenging too. It's almost like maybe that's why the algorithm intentionally, because they know they don't want you to miss out on this perfect guy, and so let's give her the 51-year-old and see how it goes. Yeah. So.
And I think about going back to my day and how many people I've dated that were 15 years older, or given I was younger then, but. And it's but now would I do that? I don't know. I don't think so.
I think, in my mind, I feel like that's become more acceptable these days. Just age ranges being wider.
Right.
Partly, I think, is because certain people, if they are staying in shape, doing things to improve their quality of life, whatever it is that appeals to them, they do want to maybe date a little bit younger. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Well, I mean, guys I see all the time dating younger. Okay, what is like the age limit that you would go to as far as young wise?
I mean, I would say late 20s.
Yeah.
Because, anything like around college age, it's, first of all, I've never really been attracted to very young women in general, like ever since I was in my 20s anyway. But there's just a huge gap in maturity.
Absolutely.
Once somebody's kind of entered the professional life, let's say late 20s, and they're doing something, then you're going through different experiences, but there's similarities. And so you can have a conversation about life and, your goals and things like that. But like for me to date a college girl, I don't know what we talk about. It just wouldn't happen. First, we'd have to communicate on Snapchat because like none of them even they don't even text or Facebook or Instagram. It's all Snapchat. So it's that would be my lower limit for sure.
I just see this like so many times with guys, like even my ex like dating someone ridiculously younger, and I'm like, how? Like, what do you even communicate with? I can't. There's no way. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think right around 10 years is like 10 to 15 is really sort of pushing it, and obviously, depending on where that ends on the low scale. But I'm saying like 25. And 40 could work, but anything beyond that really starts to push the limits, I think. So. Except for Leonardo DiCaprio, seems to work for him. His limit is 25.
So ridiculous.
I don't know if you saw it. There's this funny meme of him and Rose from Titanic.
Oh, no, I haven't seen this one.
Right? And so they're on the raft.
Yep.
And she says, well, just so you know, I'm 27, and he flips the raft, gets her off of there and climbs on himself. So,
yeah. Whew, dating these days. Oh my. So, I'm trying to think of like what else juicy we could get into.
Well, we have quite a few episodes coming up, so we're going to delve into some very interesting things, a little bit more detail into some of the things we talked about.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things to look forward to.
I know. I'm excited. And I feel like, we'll have some experts on the show as well. Maybe like, how do these relationships that people are with, together for 20 years and still super happy, how do they last? Like, what is the magic secret,
Well, you and I need to find that out because neither of our relationships have lasted that long. No. So I hope that expert gives us some expert advice.
Yeah, please. I think my longest relationship has been 5 years.
Yeah.
That's it.
7 for me. So
actually, yeah.
It'd be nice to stretch it out a little bit longer.
Really nice. Yeah.
I'm sure we got time to figure it out. I hope.
Yeah, seriously.
Through the running of this podcast, maybe we'll learn something.
I hope so. And for those out there too, like the pattern has been my everything. We'll talk about that another time too.
Great app. Lots of both of us are very spiritual.
Yes.
Into a lot of these different things related to energy and destiny, free will, all these things, and those interact quite a bit in relationships because relationships are a key part of our life. Yep. So that's something I've become much more interested in over the last, I'd say, 5 years, and you've been into it for quite a while.
Since I was a kid, actually.
But yeah, that's awesome. But our paths kind of connected there as well, in terms of that interest, and it's going to be great to explore that in more detail for sure.
Super excited. Yeah. I'm super excited for all the guests we're going to have coming up and the deep, other intense conversations we'll have because there's so many stories and so many things to dive into. But this has been great for our first ep. I'm stoked for what's to come, and you guys have any other things you guys want us to talk about? You guys want to bring on certain experts? Write in. Let us know what you guys want.
Absolutely. We look forward to your questions.
All right, guys. This is us signing off.